Thank you.
The 7th of
Morning.
August, First Mishnah, Pierke Avos. Good morning, Rabbi. Good morning, Roy. Refuah Shalema Tachana.
Thank you. Good morning to you too, Lou.
Okay. So, as Lou mentioned, this is Rabbi Shlomo Furst here. This is our first here this morning. Currently learning about Galus Mitzrayim, Avram Avinu, and the Bris Bein B'Sarim. Okay. We'll start with the first paragraph on the second page of your document, if you have it, or if you're seeing it on the screen, it'll be the top paragraph on your screen. Any volunteers to read?
I do. Okay, let's see. Umeata hakushe lama lo ba ha onesh al Avraham Betila. From now, the holiness.
No, Kusha, the question from Akasha, from Kusha.
The question now. From now, the question: Lama lo ba haonesh? Why does the punishment not come on Abraham? What is Betila?
That question that we were asking, why didn't the punishment come on Avram Avinu? That question is now bottled. That question has now been like neutralized.
Okay. The question is nullified because we established that he couldn't be punished.
Right.
Ki lo chal alehem sham sheyavod ad shahayu ayin nefesh, because it did not attach upon them there that what is Ya'avod?
That's the shibud, the enslavement. Because we learned, right, that it couldn't be effective on them, the punishment of the shibud, of the enslavement, only on the 70.
Right. So mipnei shelo yitakein shibud v'his gavros ha'omos al Yisrael ella kasher yesh b'mi'un beinehem.
Dimium.
Binyam?
Dimion, a similarity.
Dimyon, right, Dimyon beinehem. Mipnei, because that there's not a correction that enslavement.
No, it's not, surely, it's not possible. You're talking, it's not possible.
It's not possible. It's not possible that enslavement. What is shehiskavrot?
His gabrus is domination. It means gaber. A person wants to be gaber on the Yetzer Hara. He wants to be he wants to dominate the Yetzer Hara.
Would dominate the nation of Israel, except when there was dominion between them. No, not dominion. What is this word, dimion?
Similarity.
Similarity between the Egyptians and the Jews,
or any. You're not just saying about the Egyptians. You say any. This is probably one of the most important statements in the Maharal. It says again, it's not possible. Shibud, enslavement, mizgabu, and domination of the nations of the world over the Jews. Only when there's going to be some similarity between them, meaning the whole concept of assimilation as a panacea for anti-Semitism is completely corrupt. It works completely the opposite. The more we assimilate, the more we'll be dominated and enslaved by the non-Jews.
right?
Our uniqueness as Jews is central to our survival. When we lose our uniqueness, that's what we've been learning. The Avos, Avram Avinu, Yitzchak Avinu, and Yaakov Avinu, and the Shiftei Kor, the sons of Yaakov Avinu, they were so inherently unique that any domination or enslavement could not be possible upon them because they were so unique in and of themselves. And there would be no similarity between the Avos and the Shiftei Kor to any of the rest of the nations. It was only when 70 went down to Mitzrayim, and there was therefore within that grouping of 70 the potential for assimilation. And at that point when there was a potential for assimilation, at that point they could now begin a possibility also of dominion and enslavement of the Jewish people. But as long as we remain unique and separate and unalike, dissimilar to the rest of the nations around us, we're protected. We don't need armies. We don't need guns. We don't need any of that. Our protection is simply and absolutely in our ability and our desire to remain separate and unlike the rest of the nations around us. Yeah, very, very important statement. Extremely, extremely important.
Okay. ולמעלוס האבוס והיש והשבטים אין יחוס יחום להם עם המצריים.
Mitzrayim, very good. The Mitzrayim, right? Very good.
Ulamalos, and the virtues Avos of the forefathers and the tribes were not. What is this word? Yachom.
Yaakov, ein yichus nehem ima Mitzrayim. They had no relationship with them along to with the Mitzrayim.
Ad she.
The virtues of the Avos and the Shvatim would not allow them to have any relationship with the Mitzrayim.
Ad shiyu ayin nefesh shezeh hamispar hu davar misai hem al ha'amos kasher amarnu. Until that there were 70 people that this hamispar. What is hamispar?
The tally, the amount.
This amount is the thing what is Misai Cham?
Yep. Good morning, Mayor.
Morning, good morning. Sorry I'm late.
Morning, man.
Morning,
Fine,
man.
fine.
Morning, Lou.
We're in the top paragraph. We're in the top paragraph of the second page of your document. In the middle of the second line.
Okay.
Actually,
The third
yeah,
line.
actually, yeah. But the Maharal just said a very, very important statement. Shlo yitaken sheyibud was gabrus umas al Yisrael ela kasher yesh dim yibneim. There's no possibility of enslavement, persecution. Let's put it that way. There's no possibility of persecution and domination of the non-Jews over the Jews, except if there's going to be some type of similarity between the two of them. And the marlos of the Avos, the virtues of the Avos and the Shvatim, the sons of Yaakov, because of that, there was no yichus, there would be no relationship at all with the Mitzri. So therefore, the shibud could not be enacted upon either the Avos nor on the sons of Yaakov. Until there would be those 70 people. Hamispar who davar misyaches ima omos. That number of 70 is something which inherently is and having a relationship with the non-Jews. It's not It's not by coincidence that Hashem waited for Yaakov Avinu's family to reach a total number of 70 people. And then he went to Mitzrayim. That was precisely at that point when there was 70 people. That's when they had to go to Mitzrayim, because at that point, the fact that there were 70, and the fact that the 70 corresponds to the 70 nations, that is a link between the Jewish people and the rest of the nations.
So the word Messiah Cham is link.
Misyaches,
Messiah.
Misyaches, that is a mispar, that is a total number which has a connection. Misyaches has a connection to the 70 nations.
As we said.
Right.
Nizeh Ba'o Mitzrayim, and those were the ones that went down to Egypt. Lefichach Kol Zman Shehaya Echad Min Hashvatim Kayam, and therefore, all the time that there was one from the Shvatim still living, Asher Haya Lahem Ha-Mala Ha-Gedolah Lo Haya Yad Mitzrayim Alehem Diksiv in Shmos V'yameis Yosef v'chol echav v'chol hador hahu v'go, etc. V'yakam melech chadash v'go, etc. So that there was for them a great virtue, and there was not the hand of Egypt was not upon them, as it is written, and Joseph died, and all of that generation, and all his brothers, and all that generation, etc. And there arose a new king, etc.
That was based on that pasuk. Based on that verse, you see the connection, the relationship between the fact that as long as Joseph and his brothers were still alive, there was no possibility of persecution and domination of the Egyptians over the Klal Yisrael. It was only after Joseph and his brothers, finally Levi, the last of the sons of Yaakov, to die, at that point, then and only then could it now begin the servitude and the persecution of the Jewish people.
V'hinei ein kasha b'divrei Chazal. And we see there is no question in the words of the sages.
Right, that the question was, well, if the Gemara says it was because of the things that Avraham Avinu did that were fitting to be punished because of, why didn't he himself get the punishment? So here you see the answer. It was not possible that punishment should begin either when Avraham Avinu was alive, or Yitzchak was alive, or Yaakov was alive, or any one of the sons of Yaakov was alive. Only afterwards. Okay.
Amnam hagia lik tzasam sheharchiku divrei chachamim. However, what's hagia?
Amnam, however, Hagia Liktsasam Shaharchiku Divrei Chachamim. Rather, right. Rather, some because of even though the morale has just proved the question doesn't really exist. However, nevertheless, because of those who had the question, they found it difficult to accept what was the Gemara was explaining to them.
They found it difficult to accept what this idea that you couldn't enslave the Yaakov and the Shvatim.
No, they were bothered by the question that why didn't Avraham Avinu himself get the punishment, right?
Right.
But because of that question, even though that what now we have proved that the question is not really a question, nevertheless, there were those who didn't have that understanding, and because of their lack of understanding, they found it difficult to accept properly the words of what the Gemara was saying because of their question. But by us, we've already answered that the question is not really a question. But some who didn't have the answer to the question, because of the question, they still had difficulty with the Gemara, the words of Chazal.
I'm confused. What the question is, why didn't Abraham go down and get enslaved?
Right.
All right, and the answer is because he was on such a high madrega and so kodesh.
Right.
Okay, so those who didn't hear that answer have trouble with the Mishnah that says that Yaakov and the Shvatim were on a high madrega?
Well, no, they didn't understand the necessity for the shibud to begin only after the Avos and the brothers, the Shiftei Kol, would be no longer there. And therefore, it had to be that only the going down to Mitzrayim itself couldn't have taken place only with the specific number of 70, right? So since they didn't understand these things in the context of the Maharal's understanding, so therefore they were left with the question, well, Avraminu is deserving of he's causing the fact that the punishment should come, so he's the one who should get punished. Why not? So they didn't have an answer to that.
And who is they again in this case?
You look at the first page, the first document we had. They had the questions of the the Ramban, other people that we had. We review your first document. We had several commentaries that were giving different reasons why the enslavement of the Jews in Mitzrayim had to take place because of they blamed it on Mechiras Yosef, because the Mechiras was the Shvatim sold Yosef. That's why they had to be enslaved. Also the Gemara itself, but then they came with the question on well, Avraham Avinu, he should be getting the punishment, not his offspring.
Right. Okay, I remember that.
Right, that's in the first document there.
And so they like, for example, the Rambam don't understand this principle of the Madrega and the Kedusha of Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and the Shvatim.
Right.
And therefore, when they see the Mishnah, they're confused. They don't understand.
Right.
Okay. Mipnei shelo nasnu leiv al divrei hachamim, because they did not put their heart upon the words of the sages.
I mean, they didn't pay sufficient attention to the words of the sages, right?
Utekach asher havito el divrei chachamim v'lo nichnas belev. I'm sorry, belevam. I'm sorry, I have to take a call.
Yeah, we said. Yeah, so it says here.
Hold on. So, Julie.
Right. Bitu el divri chachamim. Immediately when you'll take a look at the words of Chazal, the meaning of the Gemara, below niklas belibam mitnei shelo nir lehem hamaspik. It didn't. They weren't thinking about this because they didn't have a sufficient reason. Sorrow minadera. So that's why they went off the derech. That was why, because because they were very profound in the words of their wisdom. Oh, kashay is boni b'divrayim lo yisbik divrayim. But when you think carefully into the words of what the Gemara is saying, you're not going to have any doubts about their words. Okay, let's begin the next paragraph. With toichel lo'imer, it's possible to say toichel lo'imer.
Okay, sorry about that. Tochal Laomer, Shadas Ravosenu Zal. And one is able to say that the understanding of our sages, our rabbis, blessed memory, Ki Hashem Yisbarach Havi Es Zara Avraham Bigalus, because Hashem, may he be blessed, brought the offspring of Avraham into exile. Mipnei shelo haya Avraham mischazak kol kach be'emuna, because Avraham did not have such a strong emunah. Lekach hevi Hashem Yisbarach Zaro begalus kidei she yiknu ha emuna. And so Hashem brought the offspring to exile in order that they should acquire emunah.
Right. Very good.
Viado koach ma'asav shehu oseh le'ohavav ugevorosav asher oseh le'oivav. And they knew the strength of the deeds that were done for love and for might, that were done the oivav, I don't know.
So it's like this. It's possible to say that the opinion of what's discussed in the Gemara is as follows: Ki Hashem is brought, because the God is Baruch Hu Havi Zera Avraham B'Galus. What was the intention of Kadosh Baruch Hu bringing the offspring of Avraham Avinu into exile? Because Avraham Avinu was not so strong in his emunah. Therefore, the Kadosh Baruch Hu brought this offspring of Avraham into Gullus in order that they should acquire emunah, that they should acquire faith. V'yedu koyach ma'asav shu oseh la'oivav v'gevurosav asher oseh la'oivav. That they should know, that they, the offspring of Avraham Avinu, should know and experience that which Hashem will do for those he loves, and his mighty, his awesomeness, which he will do for those he loves. So Kadosh Baruch Hu, knowing that there was some type of lack of full, perfect faith in a Kadosh Baruch Hu on the part of Avraham Avinu, so in order to compensate for that deficit of the proper, perfect faith that Hashem wanted the Jewish people to have, so in order to them to gain that perfect, absolute faith, they were sent into Gullus in order to experience and to see and to come to a full realization of what a Kadosh Baruch Hu can and will do for those he loves, and the mightiness that Hashem will exhibit in towards of helping those who he loves as well. So that's the purpose of Gullus.
So now it seems like we're switching gears away from the explanation that says we didn't go down to Egypt because Abraham didn't go down to Egypt because of his madrega, to saying that it was through his offspring that his weakness in Amunah was going to be corrected.
Right. This is another explanation. Correct.
So I have a basic philosophical question. Because I've heard this explanation before, and I heard that when Avraham said, "How will I know?" at the Bris Bein HaBetarim, that was an indication of a weakness of his Amunah, like it's saying here, and therefore Hashem responds and says, "You're going to have to go down to your offspring are going to have to go down to Egypt."
Right.
So it would seem, my question is, does it not seem like it didn't work? That we see the Jewish people come out of Egypt into the wilderness, and several times they exhibit a lack of faith in Hashem, and they're afraid that Hashem's going to abandon them and they're going to die, and they want to go back to Egypt. So what happened here? Hashem said, "I'm going to send you down so your faith will be fixed." It doesn't seem like it worked.
No, right. It definitely worked. It definitely worked. However, that doesn't mean that that people can't have backslidings, and people can't make mistakes, and people can't sometimes lose their faith temporarily. Right? It doesn't mean that they're going to remain in a perfect state continually. Right? That's the whole purpose of testing people, that people should be tested, and through the successful mastery of the tests, they should rise to the higher levels. But sometimes people don't fail the tests. They don't succeed in the tests. They fail the tests. That doesn't mean that it's not that in general the program's not successful. Simply means that they have to work on it more. For example, when because of the Chet of the Miraglim, according to the plain understanding, because of the Chet of the Miraglim and whatever lack of perfect faith the Jewish people had at the time, so we needed 40 years of rectification for that. Right? So that was there to rectify that deficit. Right? So it doesn't mean that the program didn't succeed. Right? By and large, it did succeed. By and large, the Jewish people, to this very day, it's almost 2,000 years of gullus, right? And the Jewish people are still thriving, right? After 2,000 years of gullus. And that's because of the faith that was inculcated into us in the time we were in Egypt and the time we were in the Midbar, and the other things would happen to us throughout our history. So it doesn't mean we can't, do you know any ball player that has a 1,000 batting average? Is anyone in the history of baseball at 1,000 batting average?
Do I know? I have known nothing about baseball.
Well, I know of no baseball player with 1,000 batting average.
Okay, so it sounds like what you're saying, Rabbi, is that this process of eradicating the weakness of Amunah was not only in Egypt, but it was also in the wilderness.
Yeah, I mean, throughout our history, the Kadosh Baruch was constantly testing us. It was primarily the primary operation to make the rectification was that which took place in the Mitzrayim, right, and on the Yam Suf. Right, those were great. Those great, tremendous events were made specifically to help the Jewish people reach these perfect levels of faith and trust in the Kadosh Baruch Hu. But even reaching those perfect levels of faith and trust in Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't mean that we will always maintain those perfect levels constantly. You know, maybe more successful than into certain things than others, right? So, but we had the potential. Now we have the potential to perfect our faith and trust in the Kadosh Baruch. Before that, we didn't. Before going to Mitzrayim, before witnessing all the things that took place for us in Mitzrayim, we didn't have the potential to perfect it, right? Because it would have been, so to speak, an inherited blemish based on whatever slight deficit Avram Avinu had in his faith in Emunah and Kadosh Baruch Hu. And then when he asked that question, B'ma'ida, that in some way represented a very, 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 very slight lack of faith in the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, so and because of that, we as his children would inherit that spiritual deficit. So in order to compensate for that spiritual deficit, we had to witness the things which occurred to us in Egypt and on the Yam Suf, and also to some extent also the things would happen to us in the Midbar as well. And those things were designed by Kadosh Baruch Hu to help us overcome this spiritual deficit of faith and trust in the Kadosh Baruch Hu, which we inherited from that very slight deficit that Avram Avinu himself seemed to have. And so by going through the enslavement in Egypt and the persecution of Egypt, so that and we therefore in witnessing the 10 plagues, all the other wonders and signs that the Kadosh were brought for us in the Yam Suf, those things rectified that spiritual deficit, but doesn't mean that we can't at one point or another perhaps not perform 100%, right? But that we have the potential to perform 100%. Whether we're going to actually perform 100% is a question. Sometimes yes, sometimes perhaps not.
Okay. Weiter, or is our time up?
What time is it? Oh, it's a good point. Okay, very good point. So let's see. We're in the middle of this, yeah?
Yeah, we're on the third line, Camo.
Okay, so I'll tell you what, we'll begin this paragraph again tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem. We'll begin this, let the running start and begin this paragraph again tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem. Okay.
All
Okay,
right.
but did that answer your question somewhat that you had previous?
Yeah, that helped a bit.
Okay, Mitzvah Shem. All right, so we'll continue this shortly with the Shir and Mr. Brewer. Roy, please have a good afternoon.
Thank you. You too. Be well.
Likewise, be well. Hope to see you tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem. And starting the Mr. Brewer shortly. Bezalel.